Where is real estate market headed for both buyers and sellers for the rest of 2022? Is Dallas headed for a crash? That's what we're talking about today, so stay tuned. The real estate market is changing, and if you're following the news, and all the headlines about conditions in the current housing market may leave you with more questions than answers. Is the boom over? Is the market crashing or correcting? Here is what you need to know. The housing market is moderating compared to the last 2 years. But what everyone needs to remember is the last 2 years were record-breaking years in nearly every way. Record low mortgage rates and millennials reaching peak home buying years led to the influx of home buyer demand. At the same time, there weren't enough homes available to purchase. Thanks to many years of underbuilding and sellers who held off on listing their homes due to the health crisis. This combination led to record high demand and record low supply. And this wasn't going to be sustainable for the long term. The latest data shows early signs of a shift back to a market pace seen in years leading up to the pandemic, not a crash or a correction. Let's look at another indicator of the market, home showings. The showing time showing index tracks the traffic of home showings according to agents and brokers. It's a good indicator of buyer demand. Here's a look at the data going back to 2019. The 2019 numbers give a good baseline for pre-pandemic demand, shown in the gray. As the graph indicates, homes showing skyrocketed during the pandemic, shown in the blue. And while current buyer demand has begun to moderate slightly based on the last data, shown in the green, showings are still above the 2019 levels. And since 2019 was such a strong year for the housing market, this helps show that the market isn't crashing, it's just turning point that's moving back towards a more pre-pandemic level. Headlines are talking about how housing sales are declining, but perspective matters. Here's a look at existing home sales going all the way back to 2019 using data from the National Association of Realtors. Again, a similar story is shown. The pandemic numbers, shown in the blue, beat the more typical year of 2019 home sales, shown in the gray. And according to the latest projections for 2022, shown in the green, the market is on pace to close this year with more home sales than in 2019 as well. It's important to compare today not to the abnormal pandemic years, but to the most recent normal year to show the current housing market is still strong. Mark Fleming, the chief economist of First American, sums it up like this. Today's housing market looks a lot like the 2019 market, which was the strongest housing market in a decade at the time. Looking specifically at Texas and the DFW area, the economist at Texas A&M Real Estate Research Center stated, while the national demand for housing declined marginally, the demand in Texas accelerated, increasing the total home sales by 3.4% in the first quarter of 2022, with Dallas seeing the most growth in new homes above the $500,000 mark. When looking at the possibility of foreclosures in our market, the U.S. Census Bureau's Household Pulse survey showed that the share of Texas homeowners behind on their mortgage payments jumped from 3% points to 7%. DFW stayed unchanged at 4%. The bottom line is this: the current market is not a crash or a correction. It's just a turning point towards more of a typical pre-pandemic levels. What does this mean for home buyers? The interest rates and home prices will continue to rise, so the sooner you buy, the better. Mortgage rates are now anticipated to be at 5.5% to 6% by the end of the year. The good news is that you'll have more homes to choose from and a little less competition for the same house. For home sellers, it's expected to remain a seller's market, but you will also likely need to adjust your expectations as you may not receive the windfall you've grown accustomed to in the past couple of years. The crazy bidding wars, offers of tens of thousands of dollars over your asking price, and lots of buyers willing to waive just about every contingency may not materialize. Buyers are now struggling with higher prices and mortgage rates, so they might have less money to put down on a home than they would have just a year ago. One thing is for sure, this market is consistently changing. Don't try to go at this alone. Reach out to us by phone or email and we'll be glad to help guide you through the process.